the skill, the lifestyle medicine skill that I'm going to teach you right now for combating stress eating will do exactly that. It will take your nervous system from a revved up state and then down regulate it.
Hi, welcome to the Judy Terrell Show, where I explore topics intended to optimize every body 50, 60, 70, and above.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to my podcast. Today, I am going to talk about the number one reason why people eat when they are not hungry, and that is factoring into our obesity epidemic and our diabetic epidemic and our chronic health epidemic. All right, everybody, welcome. So, stress eating. Stress eating is the number one reason that people report that they are eating when they are not legit hungry. Or maybe they're hungry too, but they're being driven to eat because they're feeling stress. So if you're identifying with this, and statistics and the science shows that's kind of like 80 to 85% of people who are struggling with their weight report stress eating. So this would be you, I'm assuming, right? And so in today's video, I'm going to teach you a technique to help to combat that exact scenario, eating for stress. But before I teach you the technique, and believe me, I'm going to get to it really quick, let me go into a little bit about what's going on in your body and when you're stressed and then turning to food. All right. So, unless you're living under a rock right now in 2026, which is when I'm filming this, we're living in a high stress period of human history. Not high stress because of physical stresses, like when we were, settling the Wild West, or at earlier times in human history where survival and having shelter and not being eaten by wild animals was a major stressor. We're not having physical stresses like that anymore, or few of us are. Much bigger degree, the stress is coming from emotional and psychological and mental. Our brains are firing on all cylinders constantly. My way of describing how clients are that come into my office every day now is we are struggling with what I call death by 1,000 cuts. And what I mean by that is it's not like someone died or we had a car accident, we lost our job. It is you go on your IT, and for whatever the reason, that software is not working. And then you try to get into a back door, and then you have to get a code sent to you on your email, but you don't have access to that email, or it's going to a different email, and then you don't have the password to get into that. And now something that was supposed to take 2 minutes or a minute is now taking you a half an hour. That's a death by 1,000 cuts. The constant vigilance of having to stay up to speed with the texts that come in, with our emails that come in, with our instant messages that come in. That alone is death by 1,000 cuts. I can give you many more examples, but I think you're getting the picture. We are all taking in information now because of our technology at a higher level than ever before in human history. And the science is now showing that, the hardware of our brains has not evolved as rapidly as the information, overload has. And so our brains are struggling to keep up, right? Then you add in other things that actually are bigger stressors, like a health issue with a loved one, your own health issue, reaching midlife and then, contemplating retirement, but really not knowing what your next step is going to be and having stress about that. So, for a million different reasons, we will be driven now to try to distract ourselves off this like kinetic mind busyness, right? And we just need we're looking for, just give me a reprieve for that, for like 1 second. And then that, everything I just described is inside your body. That is a revved up sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is the fight or flight side or switch of our nervous system. It's what goes on internally. We will have a higher heart rate. We will have a bigger inhale. We will start spilling blood sugar into the blood by the liver. We will start making cholesterol, because all these things might save our life if we had to physically do something, run away from something, or fight. But because we don't have to do the physical, but our body is still, when we are stressed and our sympathetic nervous system is revved up intellectually, mentally, and emotionally, we're still doing all of these inner things that had to do with physical stress. And so we're revved up and almost like shaky in some cases. And that is why when you then turn to something like M&Ms or candy on your coworker's desk or a bagel or a cookie, these are highly stimulating, many times ultra processed foods. And what they do is they spill dopamine and serotonin in our brain, which makes us feel better. It distracts us as we're doing the eating off this tinker tape thinking. And for the moment, it does distract us off that feeling and make us feel a little bit better. It distracts us off that mental, nonstop chatter. But what it doesn't do is actually calm down the nervous system and take you out of sympathetic and into a parasympathetic nervous system. That's a different switch. And that's the side of our nervous system that calms us down, that repair and rejuvenation happens when the sympathetic nervous system is the predominant switch that's on. The direct opposite of did I say sympathetic? The parasympathetic, the direct opposite of the sympathetic nervous system. So the food and the stress eating serves to make us feel better in the moment, but it does not work to downregulate the nervous system, which is the root cause that would have us turn to something to eat to begin with. So then it's just a matter of moments sometimes, or just, you're not really getting at the root cause. So you just have to keep doing this behavior over and over again as your stress management tool, which is really just serving to make you feel better and spill that dopamine versus actually getting at something that's going to down regulate your nervous system. So the lifestyle medicine skill that I'm going to teach you right now for combating stress eating will do exactly that. It will take your nervous system from a revved up state and then down regulate it. I'm not saying it's going to go down to 0, but if you're revved up like this, and even if you can lower it 10 or 15% or 20%, then that is going to be a win, because now you'll be less apt to need to turn to food to make yourself feel better, because you're feeling better because you're less stressed right then in the moment. So now the skill is a combination. It's a breathing technique with a cognitive behavioral therapy technique. Okay. So the breathing technique is a shorter inhale and a longer exhale. And you can do this with counts. There's a lot of counts out there, 4-8, box breathing, 4-4-4-4, a lot of them. But all I want you to know, and what I'm going to do in this one, I'm not going to count it, is to know that when our parasympathetic nervous system the switch is on for that, we don't have a big inhale and a shorter exhale. We need that to get oxygen into our body if we had to fight something. We have a shorter inhale and a longer exhale. So if you do a longer exhale breathing, you are now taking your nervous system and turning the switch on to the parasympathetic, because that's what your nervous system does. When you're in the parasympathetic, it would do that itself. It would have a longer exhale. So we are going to do it for it so that we can calm it down. All right. So again, I'm not big on the counting piece of this, because I'm going to give you a second part of this in just a second, but it's going to look something like this. Breathing in through your nose and then breathe out through your mouth. Do it with me. Breathe in through your nose, not a big one, just a normal one. And then breathe out through your mouth, a longer one. And let's do it one more time. Breathe in through your nose. Long exhale out through your mouth. Now, just that alone, you can feel it. It brings the energy from here down a notch, right? So you could just use that, but I like to combine it with a second technique from cognitive behavioral training or therapy. And when you're revved up and like that, our brains are spinning with oh my God, I'm so stressed. Oh my God, this is going on. I can't believe this. Where we are jacked up in our thoughts, and the thoughts we're having and then reflecting on them and thinking about the thoughts that we're thinking about is causing a revved up state. So now we're going to take the extended exhale and we're going to combine it with a calming thought, okay? So the thought that you're going to say, and I'm going to say it out loud, is, even though I'm stressed, I'm calm. So as you breathe in, you would say in your head, I'm going to say it out loud, even though I'm stressed, I am calm. Breathing in, even though I am stressed or angry or mad or whatever it is, might be, frustrated, I am calm. One more time. And you can drop the first part as you're doing it. If you're doing multiple rounds, just breathe in. And as you breathe out, say, I am calm. And now you're combining two completely different techniques, both of which are designed to take the nervous system from sympathetic down to parasympathetic. When you are saying to yourself, I am calm, that has a whole different emotional state in your body than if you say to yourself, I'm stressed. The chemical pathways that you have when you're thinking that one thought versus the other thought are completely different, right? So we're going to combine the thought, I am calm, with the breathing, which is the calm breathing that you do normally when you are calm. We put those two together, and that's a powerful behavioral tool, a lifestyle as medicine tool and intervention to interrupt stress eating. If you can do 3 breaths like that, when you know you're right on the brink of popping things in your mouth that you don't want to, you really don't want to, but like you're driven, you're compelled to do it. It's a habit pattern when you're stressed. Okay, that's how it came to be. But if you can now identify, all right, I'm stressed. I'm gonna actually do something to lower my stress level inside this vehicle, and then see if I'm still driven to have that food. You're going to find that 50% of the time, and even more possibly, you are going to either interrupt that pattern and not get into the food, or buy yourself those 30 seconds to let the frontal brain come in and be like, all right, I need to get away from this. I need to get away from this desk with the food on it. I need to get out of the kitchen. Let me go for a walk. Let me just calm myself down, right? So you can have that pause with this technique to then intervene from the frontal brain, the cognitive part of your brain, and get out of what's called the limbic system, the response reaction part of the brain, the hypothalamus. And this works. It works. Yes, you have to practice it. The first time might be not as powerful as when you've been practicing it for 2 weeks. But believe me, when I tell you, because I teach this all the time, I use it myself. There's evidence-based research to show they'll do blood pressure before and after doing this. They'll do heart rate response. They'll do a different biofeedback in randomized controlled studies to find that this technique calms down the nervous system. So evidence-based, it's simple to do, has no negative side effects. So I invite you to take on this behavior and make it part of your eating habit patterns, especially if you're somebody who recognizes that stress eating is undermining the results you're after. All right, everybody, I appreciate you being on this video. I hope you took away a really powerful tool. I know you did if you stayed to this phase of the video. So if you are looking for lifestyle as medicine tips and tools, follow me. Look me up on my website. I work with people remotely and in person, and I would welcome working with you too. In the meantime, de-stress, everybody. Breathe.
And if you'd like to have access to some of my additional resources, I can be found at Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and on my website, www.judyterrell.com.